Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Shit's Hard. I'm your host, Amber. And today we are talking about why you should not move in with your situationship. Speaking from experience. Okay, let me tell you this story. This is my first episode that I'm doing with absolutely no notes. Usually I do a bit of an outline and I figure out what I want to talk about and stuff. But this is just really fresh for me. And I'm having a lot of feelings about it, and I just want to talk about it. So, as you can see, we're in a new location again, because this past year has been fucking insane. Hopefully 2025 will be better. But if you were following along and I kind of explained to you guys, my one roommate who I wasn't really getting along with, I moved out and whatever. And then I moved in with a friend. We're going to tell you the story about that friend. So this was a friend of mine who we were not that close, but we were cool, and he had helped me out a lot in the moving process. He helped me move in with my friend, and then when things kind of went haywire, he was very emotionally supportive for me. And then when I needed a place to go, I moved in with him. And he helped me move out of my friend's place, back into his place. And literally this story is kind of wild. So when I moved into his place, he has a studio, and so there was not really a place for all my shit. So we moved my stuff all into my best friend's garage for a month or two, and I still wasn't finding a place. And so we ended up eventually moving all that stuff into his apartment in December. And then in February, I moved out. So this man has helped me move all of my shit. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times in the past 4 months. So if that tells you anything about him, he's an angel. And he's never even batted an eye about that, because he's just whatever, it had to happen that way. But let's just start at the beginning. So I moved in with him in September when I was having issues with my previous roommate. We really weren't getting along, and I needed a place to go. And we always make jokes about this, because I was 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks. Can I please just stay at your place for 2 weeks while I find somewhere else to go? And that turned into 4 months. So, which is fine. He wasn't pressed about it. I did pay rent for a portion of that. At first, he was no, you don't need to pay rent. And I didn't for the first 2 months. And then eventually I was okay, yeah, I probably should jip in around here. But like I said, he was living in a studio apartment. And so I moved in with him, and I was sleeping on his bed, and he was sleeping on his couch. Was a pull-out bed. So he was sleeping on the pull-out couch for the first, I don't know, a while since I was there. And we just spent every day together. And we never got tired of each other. I mean, living with somebody else in a studio apartment is pretty Jesus Christ, especially somebody I was not that close to. We were not besties by any means. We were cool, but it was a little bit insane. Okay, so a little bit of backstory. We met probably 2 years ago. And we met at the gym, and he would chat with me at the gym here and there. And I actually was with my previous boyfriend when I met him, and we were very cool, but just acquaintances. We never even when I first met him, I was with somebody and he wasn't pushy. So whatever. It's say hi at the gym and how are you doing? What's going on? But other than that, nothing else. Eventually I broke up with my ex, and then more time passed. And then I think in 3 months after me and my ex broke up, he had asked me to go surfing. And I was okay, sure. So we went surfing. He tells me to this day that was not a date. And I was it seemed like a date. You also picked me up, took me to breakfast. Then we went surfing. Then you took me to lunch. And then you took me home. But okay, whatever. Guess it's not a date. And I don't know. We did this thing where for a year straight, he never like texted me much, but like if he saw me at the gym, he'd stop, he'd say hi. And then a lot of times on Fridays, I was working until like noon and he would be there. And then, you know, I'd stop by after I'd finished with my clients. I'd be like, hey, what's up? And he'd kind of tell me what's going on. And then he'd be like, do you just want to go grab lunch? And I was like, sure, let's get lunch. So then we would get lunch. But after lunch, I'd go home and he wouldn't text me. Like he wouldn't talk to me outside of the lunch. Unless he saw me at the gym, he didn't like say anything to me. So I kind of was like, oh, maybe he's not interested in me. But then I was like, he keeps paying for my lunch, which is a little bit weird. But I was like, he doesn't seem to be making any advances. It wasn't flirty. He wasn't like, it wasn't like, I don't know. I was kind of confused. But if I didn't see him at the gym physically, like by happenstance, then we didn't really talk. So I was like, all right, well, maybe whatever. So I don't know. I just kept living my life. And what's funny about this whole thing is now that we got so close in that 4 months that I lived there, where we talked about all this stuff from the past and kind of like what was actually going on with us and why we did certain things. And he was like, no, I really, really liked you. I was into you. And like, he was like, to be honest with you, I was getting the vibe that you didn't like me or you didn't like want to date me. And he was like, I was like telling myself to like stop asking you out. Like he was like, literally, like I was like, on a Friday, he'd be like, don't like stop asking her on dates. Like she doesn't want to like whatever the fuck be anything with you. You have to stop like, you know, taking her out. And he was like, but every Friday you'd come up to me, we would chit chat, and then I'd be like, let's just go to lunch. And you'd be like, okay. And I was like, that's hilarious. I had no idea. I was confused because mind you, at this time I wasn't really looking for a boyfriend. Like I was definitely still getting over my ex. And so I wasn't like looking for anything serious, but I was like, yeah, sure. Like I like this guy. I like hanging out with him. And we had like, one thing about him, we never ran out of things to talk about ever. I'd see him at the gym and I would accidentally talk to him for like an hour and like ruin his whole workout because we just end up talking about fucking God knows what, anything, like whatever. I'd come complaining, I'd come with family stuff, I'd come with whatever, and he was down to listen. So, so for about a year, we went out like every once in a while when we saw each other at the gym and nothing really outside of that. And during this time, he had more feelings for me than I knew. And he was like going over it with his friends on like what to do about it. And his friends were like, you got to leave this girl alone. Like she obviously isn't into you. All the while I'm like living my life. I mean, I was kind of like fucking around, doing whatever. I wasn't really seeing anyone seriously. And I was not in a place for like a real relationship. And I think I knew that. And I think also when he kind of like took me out, I like knew right away. I was like, oh, this guy is like the kind of guy that you marry. Like this is not the guy that you just fuck around with. And so I was like I knew that I didn't want to like waste his time if I knew that I wasn't in a place for a relationship. So realistically, that's kind of why I never pursued anything further. But also like I said, he wasn't really like trying. He just like would ask me out and then like not talk to me for like a couple weeks if I didn't happen to see him at the gym. So I just kind of like let it be and was living my life. And he was over here like, stop asking her out. Whatever. So when I moved, and we were like, cool, right? So when I moved in with my friend back in July, August, and I needed like help moving, I reached out to him and I was like, hey, like, would you mind? Or actually, I think his dad had a truck. So I ended up being like, hey, like, would you mind helping me move? Like, could we borrow your truck? Whatever. And he was like, yeah, of course, whatever. So that's kind of how it started. No. Sorry. Okay. Rewind like before I decided I was going to move in. Or yes. Hold on. Okay, so back in February, my roommate that I was living with at the time when I used to live in Pasadena, she was moving out. She was moving in with her boyfriend, and she owned all the furniture that we had. I think I've talked about this before. Very stressful. I'm not mad at her, by the way. Like, she had to do what she had to do, but just she owned everything. So it was kind of stressful to like try to refurnish the whole apartment like ASAP. I'm talking like I didn't have plates. I didn't have fucking silverware. I didn't have knives. I didn't have cutting boards. I didn't have a couch. I didn't have lamps. Like when she moved, the entire living room and kitchen looked like the day that you would move in, vacant. And so I was very stressed trying to furnish the apartment. And so this guy was actually one of the people that I had reached out to because I needed help with something. Like, I don't know. Obviously, I needed a lot of help during this time from friends and stuff because I don't have family in Los Angeles. And I needed like, you know, if I needed to move a couch, I needed help with that. And he was like, he actually gave me 2 couches. He was like, oh, my grandma's getting rid of couches. Like, do you want them like for free? No worries, whatever. I was like, oh, shit, yeah. So he helped me move the couches in. And then that day, he actually ended up staying for like at my house for like all day. Because he's like, oh, do you need help with anything else? And I was like, well, actually, yeah. Like, I'm trying to change the license plate on my car because I got California plates. I'm trying to hang these curtain rods. I don't have a drill, like all kinds of shit. And so he stayed all day and helped me with everything, which was amazing. Again, this guy's like a saint. He's like very caretaker, very nurturing. And he's very generous too. I think he didn't need as much as I needed because he has family and stuff here. So it's not like he's over here asking me for stuff, which kind of made me feel like, oh, fuck, like, am I just asking this person for things when I need things? But we did stuff too. We get lunch and then we played tennis and stuff. So we hung out. And yeah, that was very sweet back in February when he helped me with that. But then it kind of like continued as it was, like not really texting me outside of that. Actually, I think maybe the next month, we ended up going on a date. He like asked me to get food and then was like, are we going to lunch or dinner? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, I got to work in the morning though. So I was like, lunch doesn't really work. And he's like, okay, but is it like a lunch or a dinner? And he was trying to ask, like, is it a date or is it just like friends getting like food together? But I was like not understanding that because he kept saying, is it lunch or dinner? And I was like, well, I have to work until 2 p.m. So it doesn't really sound like dinner. But I mean, whatever. And I literally was like talking to him about this. And I remember being like, I was like, you can call it whatever you want to call it. I was like, I feel like, after I get off at 2, I need to go home and shower and stuff. So 4 p.m. is not really lunch. But I was like, I was so confused. And to this day, we've talked about this. And I was like, you're so fucking like indirect about shit. But anyways, he says that's the first time he asked me on a date. Whatever. We got sushi or something that night and donuts. And it was fun. And that was the first time that things kind of turned like, was it dinner and sushi? I'm not sure. I can't remember. I don't know. I feel like after that date, I like texted him and was like, what do you want from me? I was like, why do you keep like taking me out and like you don't? And I was like, literally, it was so platonic. He had never even said like, oh, you look really pretty. Like he was not making any kind of like hints at all that he was like romantically interested in me. Wasn't touchy, like not even the slightest. And like touchy's like okay, fair if you're not trying to be like pushy. But I was like, you literally like, didn't even like compliment me. I think he complimented my outfit one time, which I was like, okay, friends compliment each other's outfits. It's not like you look very pretty. So I was like, I'm kind of confused. He texted back and was like, LOL, like you're funny, like no, I like you, whatever. Funny enough, this did not turn into anything. So we kind of hung out again after that and things turned touchy, but it just wasn't the vibe. And I think I still knew that I wasn't in a place for a relationship. And I said that. I was like, I'm not really in a place for a relationship. And he was like, me neither. Again, he's fucking being passive and indirect. And now, like, I find out that, like, that was not true. So after that, I kind of went ghost for a little bit. And I feel really bad about this. Like, I don't know. I was anxious. I didn't know how to handle it. And so I had borrowed his, like, sweatshirt that night or something. And so he, like, texted me. Like, actually, he asked me, like, what I was doing the next weekend. I never answered or something. And then he texted me after that and was like, hey, can I get my shit back? And I was like, oh, fuck. And I was like, yeah, I'm really sorry. Like, whatever. So I brought him my sweatshirt and I was like, I'm really sorry for like kind of going ghost. Like, that was kind of shitty. Like, I just didn't know what to say. And I just didn't feel like we were like, we were vibing and I'm not really ready for anything like that and whatever. And he was like, no, it's okay. Whatever. Like, obviously, like, and he was like, yeah, it was kind of shitty of you to go ghost. And I was like, no, I agree. He's a good person. Like, I should never have, we were close enough to where I should never have just gone ghost, but whatever. We apologized. We talked about it. Or I apologized. And we talked about it. And then time kind of kept going. And we were like, okay, we'll just agree to be friends. And so, we had played tennis together. And then we went to get acai and we paid separately. So I was like, oh, okay, like, we're actually friends. And then after that is when I was going to move. Actually, there was an incident where with my old apartment, my roommate had already moved out and I locked myself out of the apartment. And so I called her. She was like, hey, I'm drunk as fuck in downtown LA, but I have an extra key. If you can get to me, I'll give you the key. I was like, amazing. Call that roommate that I moved in with who didn't turn out to be the friend that I thought that he was. Asked him to take me to downtown LA and he was like, no, that doesn't sound fun. I'm getting in my hot tub. Meanwhile, your like female friend is like locked out of her apartment at 10 p.m. I digress. We're not getting into that today. So, this other guy, I had texted him. I was like, hey, like, are you available by any chance? I need to get to downtown LA and get this key. Like, I'm locked in my apartment. I have my dog with me, whatever. He's like, yeah, of course. So he comes, picks me up. We go, get the key. He takes me home. I'm like, thank you so much. You're a lifesaver. And then we kind of part ways again. And then I was moving soon. And so I had said, like, oh, like, you have a truck. Like, would you mind helping me move? He's like, yeah, of course. So he helps me move in. And when he helps me move in, he doesn't just help me like move my stuff in. He's like mounting my TV. He's hanging my curtains. Like, he's doing all this stuff for me. And I'm like, oh my God, like, thank you. And so I live in that apartment for a month. And during that month, like I said, my friend kind of turned out to be not who I thought he was. And so I contacted this guy and I was like, I just need somebody to talk to about this. This is really stressing me out. Like X, Y, and Z have happened. Like, I don't know what to do. And there was kind of like there was a breaking point with that friendship. I said kind of, no, there was a very definitive breaking point that was like, I have to fucking leave here like this weekend. Like I need to leave this weekend. And so, that guy, I was like, I don't know what to do. And for a week straight, I was talking to him about everything that had happened. And he was like, wow, it's really shitty. And I was like, I don't know where to go. I need to find a new place. And then, I kind of was talking about my options. And one of my best friends was like, obviously you can come stay with me. But like her roommate has an aggressive dog. And so like I have a dog. And it's just like, I have a shepherd. Obviously, if you were watching the video, she's behind me. So that kind of makes things difficult. I even contacted my ex at this point. And I was like, hey, is there any way I can come stay with you for 2 weeks? And he was like, let me see if I can figure that out. And then I was like, okay, never mind. Because I ended up, this guy who actually never offered, funny enough, a week prior to this, after he helped me move in, he like attempted to ask me for space. And I think it's because he had feelings for me and he was doing a lot for me. And I thought we were friends, right? Because like we kind of talked about it. We went and played tennis. We paid separately for acai. So like I kind of was like, oh, okay, cool. We're just friends. I didn't know that he had like these feelings still. Because mind you, we were not hanging out like all the time. It was once in a while. And so a week prior to me moving in with him, he asked me for space. But he did it in such a way that was like, he was so vague and so passive and was like, I'm trying to do things that are best for me. And like, my friend doesn't think I should do things for you anymore. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, I think if you still have feelings for me, like I can understand, like if you want space, like, is that what you're asking for? I literally said that. I was like, are you asking for space? He was like, no. And I'm like, oh. Okay. So that was kind of confusing and misleading. He has always been very poor with communicating his needs. And I was very confused. Like I didn't know that he was like this. So I literally was like, what are you like? What? Like, okay. All right. So I guess we're not taking space. So whatever. Anyways, and that was right when I moved in, and then things got really shitty with that roommate and things got really rocky, and I kind of needed like a support system. And so that's when I kind of leaned on him and I was like, are you available to get coffee? Like I need to talk to somebody. And then we kind of talked about all this and I told him everything. And then like a whole week went by of me trying to figure out other places to go. My cousin lives in Sierra Madre. I reached out to him. He was like, sorry, like we don't have the room, whatever. And so at the end of that week, my roommate, who I was trying to leave while he was gone, he was going on a trip Saturday through Monday. On like Friday, I hung out with this guy friend and I was like, is there any chance I could move in with you? Like, I just want you to know this is my last resort. I really have exercised all of their options. I literally reached out to my ex, my cousin, like my friend. Like, I'm trying to figure this out. And I know that you live in a studio apartment. So I was like, would you mind just 2 weeks? He was like, yeah, of course. Like I have the room, like no worries. He was like, he's like, I didn't want to offer because I didn't want to make things weird. And I was like, oh, okay, fuck. So, all right, decision made. Next day, he comes over, we get me moved out, we get me moved into her garage, and then I kind of just take a suitcase to his place, and the goal was like 2 weeks. Okay, so that's the backstory. I feel like I skipped over a lot of that. And we really were just friends for like the first, I would say, like full month that I was there, maybe month and a half. Around 2 months was when I was like, oh, like I think I have feelings for this person. But mind you, we were spending every waking moment together, like cooking breakfast together, going to get groceries together, taking our dogs out together. And I don't know, I really feel like this amount of time spent with him, I really got to like see him for who he really is. And I mean, I liked him. Like I really was like, I think the first thing I noticed was I felt so safe around this person, especially from moving out of the situation of a very unsafe man. It was nice to be around a guy who I genuinely felt like very, like, would never like disrespect me or take advantage of me. Like the day that I moved in, he's like sleeping on the pull-out couch. He's like, the bed is yours. Like I couldn't, and I was like, I'll take the fucking couch, like whatever. He's like, no, like it just doesn't sit right with me having like a girl stay in my apartment, like on the couch. So I was like, all right, thanks. And so, yeah, we just spent like every waking moment together, and it just never got old. Like I just never got tired of him. Like we just like, and he became like my person for like when I needed to vent about stuff or whenever things were going on. And then, the holidays came around. And so obviously like I wasn't going home for Thanksgiving or Christmas. And he was like, would you want to come to my family's Thanksgiving and Christmas? Like, I don't want you to be alone. I was like, okay, yeah, of course. So I feel like around Thanksgiving, like November was when I was like, okay, like I think I have feelings for this person. Like, I just like him a lot. I like being around him. I really like who he is. We align politically. We align morally. Ethically. We share a lot of the same values. And on top of that, I just like really, like he's just like who I want to call. He's like my favorite person. I just want to like call him when anything happens. And so, yeah, around November, Thanksgiving, I met his family and I was like, I like this person. So I wanted to sit on that for a little bit because I didn't want to just be like, oh, I've been rejecting you for like 2 years, like, but I like you now. So I sat on it for a little bit. And then around December, I was like, and mind you, this whole time I'm looking for a place. I'm just having no fucking luck. I had went on many, many tours. I was on many Facebook group chats. I was messaging girls every day. I was posting in these group chats, hey, looking for a roommate, this area, this price range, like, it was just fucking slim pickings. I met with so many girls. I went on so many apartment tours. A lot of them turned out to be flops. A lot of them turned out to have like a budget of fucking $900. I was like, that's not gonna get you shit out here. I have a German Shepherd, so a lot of them don't want to live with a pet. So it was really hard to find a place. And I just want to throw that in there. I was looking the whole time. And I almost moved out December 1st, and then it fell through because the landlord was a piece of shit and didn't know ESA laws and was like being an asshole to me about my dog, which like you can't discriminate against somebody with an ESA, but whatever. He's a dick. Anyways, I didn't move in there. And that's probably for the better. But so that's kind of when I was like, oh my God, like, well, I have to get my shit out of my friend's garage because it's just been there for too long. And I was like, maybe I should just like stay. Like, it wasn't like, okay, stay here permanently, like forever. But it was like, let's try this out. Let's move my stuff in. Let's get a little more comfy and we'll kind of see how it goes. And obviously, like, if things are not going well, you can get back on the search, but just take a break from the search. So in December, that's pretty much what happened. We just kind of enjoyed the holidays together and stuff. And we fought like hell. I have no idea what happened when we decided that we were going to like be together, make it work and like move my shit in. But it was just every day over like nothing. We fought over a bookshelf. We fought over a fucking, I don't even know. It was just almost every day, every other day in December was like a fight. And I was like, this isn't going to work. Like I don't cry a lot, but in this month, there was like 2 fights where I just was pushed to tears and I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. Like I was like, every day it's something. I was like, I can't keep fighting like this. And so finally I made the decision. I was like, I'm going to move out. And I was not like, I'm done with you. It was more like, I need to start looking again. And so I took December off. And then in January, I started to look again. And of course, it was no rush. Like it was like, we're still trying to make things work. And if you can't find something on this date this time, he's like, I'm not kicking you out, but like, let's just slowly try to look at your options and figure something out for you. And so we did that. And January was so much better. I swear, once we made the decision for me to like leave, it was like the pressure was relieved and things got a lot better. So, you can't, maybe it's not a good idea to try to start a relationship with somebody that you're already living with. In a studio, mind you, where you don't have any privacy or personal space. And so I ended up finding a place and, it was in the works and then I signed a lease. And so it was like we knew I was leaving and everything was so much better. Everything was so much better. I don't know, we were happy, we were good, and, we were not fighting all the time. And I think also we kind of needed that space that, like, it's still a pretty new relationship. Even though we've been spending 4 months together, 2 months of those was like, all right, we're actually trying this. And I think we needed the space of, like, I have my own apartment. I don't see you every day. We don't buy groceries together. Like, we kind of have our own separate lives, and then we get to come together in the midst of that. And so I moved out like almost 2 weeks ago now, and things have been really good. Obviously, he helped me get moved in, and we've been seeing each other. This is going to air a little bit late, but tomorrow is Valentine's Day, so we're spending that together. But it started to weigh on me that we weren't like in a relationship. Like, it wasn't like official. Because I'm telling you, like, throughout this 4 months, we both talked about it. Even when we weren't trying to be a thing, I was like, I feel like I'm married to you. Like, you are my husband. Like, we do everything together. I don't even make decisions without you. Like, I wouldn't dream of going somewhere without telling you where I'm at. Like, it was a lot. And I think when I moved into this apartment, I just felt like I kept introducing him to people. And when I introduced him to people, they were like, oh, is this your boyfriend? And like, the answer is no, because we weren't official yet. But he was doing everything that a boyfriend would do. And he was acting like a boyfriend. And like, we were, you know what I mean? Like, this man is moved me in, and then he's coming back over to clean out the ice machine and put in an air filter and hang the curtains. Like, he is like my life partner. And he's like, if you need to drop off your dog while you're at work, like, we are like still co-living life. And it just was eating away at the back of my mind that we are not official. And so I kind of brought that up recently. I was like, you act like my boyfriend, but you're not. And it's been 2 months, and it's just like, I don't know. I was like, I feel like I'm hitting that time limit where I'm like, if you don't know by now, like, you would know. And we kind of talked to it, and I think, he's struggling with something that I've struggled with before. I'm sure some of you can relate to. He's like, I have melted into every partner I've ever had. I like you a lot. He was like, it seems like I would love to be your boyfriend. But he was like, especially with you moving into my apartment and it being a studio, he was like, I just put so many things in my life on pause and built my life around you. And this is something that I feel like everybody can relate to. I feel like I did this in my last relationship where I really was basing my life around him. I was, if he got off at 6, I was like, I gotta be home at 6. I want to make sure I can eat dinner with him. Like, I was going out of my way to make sure I was with my partner, or that we were spending time together or seeing each other. And I wasn't sure, if you asked me, like, what would your day look like if it were all about you and you weren't to consider anybody else other than yourself? I couldn't answer that question a year ago. I would literally be like, I don't know. Like, I don't know who I am without my partner. And so this bugged me when I felt this way. And I worked really hard on it. And I worked really hard to like get my own hobbies and like do things that I enjoy. And like, I focused on reading and yoga and making music and, playing piano. And I just tried to set aside time that was like very much for me. Like, my day was all about me. And then it's like, who can fit into that? Not how I can fit around them. And so he, as of recently, was like, I'm just feeling that way. I'm feeling like I really wrap my life around yours. And he was like, I do really like you, but I just, I don't want to melt. I don't want to be your shadow. And he was like, I feel like I need to be alone for a little bit and figure this out. And he was like, you've been living with me for 4 months and you've only moved out for like 2 weeks. So he was like, I do feel like this is the time for me to figure it out, but if my time is up, then I get that too. So unfortunately we've been having that conversation lately, which sucks. It sucks a lot. I feel like this is like a in your 20s thing you have to do, is like, you really do have to spend time alone and spend time with yourself and, get to know you. And those things are important. Like really cultivating that relationship to self, especially I feel like in your 20s before you're like married with kids, I feel like is so relevant. Part of the reason I left my last relationship, and I needed to do that, like, I really needed to be alone. So I understand him. But it just sucks. I mean, on the one hand, I'm like, you pursued me for 2 years and now you have me and you don't want me. And he's like, that's not the case. You know that I don't want you. But he's like, I don't want to keep you waiting either. Like, if you feel like this is, this has been enough time to where it's either like it's happening or it's not. Then he was like, I feel like I'm not quite there yet, but it's not fair to keep me in limbo. And I obviously appreciate his honesty, because I would rather that than him get into a relationship with me and then give me like a half-assed version of himself. But it sucks. It sucks, and I'm really sad. And I like him a lot, so I really do hope that he figures this shit out. I don't want him to feel like a hollow version of himself, or I don't want him to feel like his life is wrapped around mine. I want him to have his own interests and thoughts and hobbies and desires and passions that are not mine. I think it's important to have a sense of identity. I think even in terms of like furniture, when I had moved in, his apartment, he had just moved into his apartment. I say just. He had moved into his apartment like 8 months ago, but he's a man. So when I moved in, he was fucking, had no bath mats and like 2 towels. So it was not the most homey. And then when we moved my stuff in so we could get out of my friend's garage, I have like 2 big rugs and like a dresser and like things that made this space feel like a home. He doesn't have curtains. He didn't have a rug, fucking none of that shit. So it just, I think that's another like phase of identity where he was like, it was all your stuff. And he was like, I think it would feel good for me to try to furnish my apartment on my own and have my own space. And I get that. I feel that way too about my space and about my room and feeling like mine and looking like mine. I don't know. So, I know the title's misleading. Don't move in with your situationship. Speaking from experience. We were I moved in with him first and then we became a thing. And then the responsible thing to do was to move out. So I'm glad I did that either way. But we're kind of in this intermittent phase of like, I'm like, kind of like, what's next? I mean, I can't wait around for you forever because that's not fair to me either. But I do understand like wanting to have your own sense of identity in a relationship because I think that that's hard. So that's my story time. Hopefully it's not too sad as my pre-Valentine's episode. Although this isn't going to air for like another 2 weeks. So it'll probably be March by the time this one comes out. But I mean, it's not really a Valentine's episode. It's kind of a fucking, Debbie Downer at the end of it. I'm sure we'll stay like friends or stay connected, but it does feel like we're too deep in for me to be like besties and still see him all the time and not have feelings. So, that's where we're at this week. That's the shit that we're working on is how to get over this man. And I do think a part of me is excited, for my freedom again. I want to solo travel. And I really do want to also, like if this didn't work out, then I want to focus on being single and hanging out with me again. Because I really like her and I want to hang out with her more often. So that's what we've got this week. I will see you on the next one because I shared it hard.